You know, usually when we start these deep dives, I come in here with a plan, a clipboard, a nice, neat agenda, and, a promise to get you out of here in 20 minutes with a few smart things to say.
A buffet of information.
Exactly. But a buffet, take a little of this, a little of that.
Yeah.
But tonight feels different.
It feels heavy.
It does. I want you, the listener, to just do something for me for a second. Forget where you are. Forget the commute, the gym, whatever you're doing. I want you to imagine it's 3:00 a.m.
Okay.
We're in a booth at the back of some bar, maybe New York, maybe London, maybe somewhere a lot less friendly. The music's off, lights are low, and the coaster under your drink is basically pulp.
That's the moment the real talk starts.
That's it, exactly. It's that moment where the polite conversation just dies and the real conversation begins. The kind where you grab a napkin and start drawing maps of how the world actually works.
Not how the 6 o'clock news says it works.
Never. And that is exactly where we're going. I've got a stack of documents in front of me that, and I'm not kidding, they kept me up last night.
I believe it.
We're not just looking at market trends or, tech specs. We're looking at what feels like a fundamental rewrite of the planet's operating manual.
That's a good way to put it.
We're moving from a world we thought we understood, a world of, free markets and sovereign nations.
Biology.
What's that?
We used to treat them like living things. Organisms that grew, evolved, made choices.
Right. And now we're moving into something colder, something these sources are calling a world of operating systems.
Of protocols.
And administered compression.
It's a shift from biology to engineering. The sources we're digging into, they describe countries as just nodes on a network.
So you're either
synchronized with the main server or you're a glitch. And, well, glitches get deleted.
To help us get our heads around this, we're going to frame this a bit differently tonight. I'm looking at these reports. Institutional adoption of Bitcoin, the ETF approvals, corporate treasuries, and I'm seeing victory.
The institutionalist view.
I guess so, yeah. I see BlackRock, I see Fidelity, I see entire countries buying in, and I think, we won! The Trojan horse worked.
The rebels stormed the castle.
Exactly. And now they run the bank.
That's the legitimacy is victory argument. It's a comforting one,
right?
And it's very profitable.
But you are looking at the exact same stack of papers, and you're seeing something completely different.
Completely.
You're channeling what our sources call the architect, the realpolitik view.
The view that says this isn't a victory party. It's an enclosure.
What's the difference?
It's the difference between being invited to the dinner table and being printed on the menu.
Ooh.
The architect argues that what we're witnessing is the Realpolitik Bulldozer. The system isn't surrendering to crypto. It's formatting it. Synchronizing it. And if you're sitting there thinking you're free because you got a private key in a safe, you might be missing the giant steel wall being built around the only exit.
So that's the central question tonight. Is this institutional embrace of Bitcoin? Is it freedom? Or is it a trap? Are we walking into a golden age or a bulldozer protocol?
To even start to answer that, you have to realize the map you've been using. It's garbage.
What map?
East versus west, left versus right, all of it. It's gone. The new map is just the core versus the junk.
Junk. That's a brutal word for countries, for people.
It's the system's word, not mine.
Okay, so let's start with the machine that's doing the sorting. The logistical OS. This term keeps popping up in the architect's dossier. What are we actually talking about? It sounds like, something from the IT department.
Bigger, way bigger. The logistical OS, or operating system, is the core idea that the U.S. and its integrated allies aren't just a military empire anymore.
They're a what? A platform?
A platform, exactly. Back in the 20th century, if you wanted to control a country, you invaded it. You sent to the Marines.
Which is expensive, messy.
And looks terrible on TV.
Yeah.
In the 2020s, you don't invade. You apply administered compression.
Okay, break that down for me. Administered compression.
It means you control the environment so tightly, so completely, that the target has no other choice but to comply.
How?
The core, that's the US, Canada, Europe, Japan, the whole integrated West, they built a planetary OS on 3 layers: data, value, and energy.
Okay, so data is what? Satellites?
Starlink for the data layer,
Oh.
subsea cables, the dollar and SWIFT for the value layer, and this is the new part, strict compliance networks for the energy layer.
So if a country, let's say a rogue state,
Or what the architect calls a failed partition.
if they try to operate outside this OS, you don't bomb them.
You just revoke their license.
Yeah.
You toggle a switch.
And what happens?
Their internet slows to a crawl. Their international payments just stop. The spare parts for their oil rigs don't show up at the port. The logistical OS is an update to the whole idea of hegemony.
Oh.
It doesn't really care if you're a democracy or a dictatorship.
It doesn't.
No. It just cares about your uptime. It cares if you are synchronizing with the network.
This leads right into this other concept, the Monroe Doctrine. Now, I remember the Monroe Doctrine from history class. 1823, Europe, stay out of the Americas.
Spheres of influence.
Right. But the source material says this Monroe Doctrine it's a modern update.
It's a functional patch. The source suggests the term popped up around 2026. The Monroe Doctrine was all moralizing, manifest destiny.
Spreading freedom.
Right. The Monroe Doctrine is totally amoral. It's about hemispheric functional dominance. The goal isn't to spread freedom. The goal is to remove friction.
Friction? What do you mean by friction?
Anything that slows down the network. A chaotic regime in Venezuela causing refugee flows. That's friction.
Okay.
A Chinese-controlled port in Peru that won't share its data. Friction. A drug cartel that messes with supply chains.
Friction. I get it.
And the bulldozer is the tool for this doctrine. It removes toxic assets.
And a toxic asset could be what?
Here's the cold part. A toxic asset could be a terrorist group, sure. But it could also be a democratically elected government that refuses to sell its lithium reserves to a core-aligned corporation.
So the bulldozer doesn't really care about the politics.
The bulldozer doesn't negotiate. It formats.
Formats, like wiping a hard drive.
Exactly. You don't argue with a corrupted sector on your hard drive, do you? No.
Yeah.
You reformat it, you wipe it clean, and you reinstall the operating system. That's the new foreign policy.
It's not war versus peace anymore.
It's system health versus system error.
Okay. This is where I have to, push back. I'm listening to all this, and it sounds like a very dark, very dystopian sci-fi novel.
I get that.
But I look out the window, and I see the S&P 500 at all-time highs. I see Bitcoin breaking records. I see politicians in Washington, actual senators talking about a strategic Bitcoin reserve. They are explicitly campaigning against CBDCs. Now, if this bulldozer was so damn controlling, why would it allow Bitcoin to flourish? Why let a decentralized, censorship-resistant asset become, the collateral for the global banking system?
Because you're confusing the asset with the network.
Explain that.
The institutionalist view, your view, is that the state surrendered to the innovation, that the code was just too strong, so the government had to bend.
It seems plausible.
But the architect looks at the exact same events and says, no. The system realized it couldn't kill the code, so it captured the infrastructure.
Capture the infrastructure.
Look at that strategic reserve idea. The institutionalist cheers the U.S. government is buying Bitcoin. This is validation.
It is validation.
But the architect asks the next question. If the U.S. government holds 20% of the supply, and BlackRock holds another 15%, and compliant miners control 80% of the hash rate, is it still a tool of revolution?
Or is it?
Or is it just a high-speed rail for the dollar?
But the network itself is decentralized. You can't capture the math. You can't capture SHA-256.
No, but you can capture the people and the machines who run the math. The Monroe Doctrine isn't about breaking encryption. It's about securing the supply chain.
The physical layer.
The physical layer. If the U.S. secures the energy grid, kicks the bad actors out of the hemisphere, and forces everyone to use clean, audited infrastructure, that reduces risk for Wall Street.
And lower risk means higher asset prices.
See? So yes, the price goes up, everyone gets rich, but the function of the asset changes completely. Bitcoin becomes a shield for American values, property rights, capital controls, sanctions enforcement.
Bitcoin for sanctions enforcement, that sounds like a total contradiction.
Not if you control the on-ramps and the off-ramps. If you control the gates, you control the flow.
Yep.
But let's look at the victims of this logistical OS. That's where you really see how it works.
The failed partitions. Russia, North Korea, Iran.
The old axis of evil. Yeah. The architect just calls them glitches. Look at the data from this Crink Ties report. There's been a massive spike in diplomatic meetings between Moscow and Pyongyang.
Right, I saw that. 10 high-level meetings in 2025 alone. A defense treaty.
Why, you'd say?
Well, because they're fighting a war and they need weapons. It seems obvious.
That's the surface reason. The structural reason is that they have been deplatformed.
A platform.
They've been kicked off the logistical OS. They can't use SWIFT. They can't get standard shipping insurance. They can't access high-tech components. So they're forced into this dark net of nations.
And you end up with Russia, a supposed superpower.
Trading advanced missile technology for what? Basic artillery shells from North Korea? Just imagine that for a second. That is pure desperation. That is what it looks like when you were cut off from the core.
Okay, but the sources also mention a rise in these Russia-based darknet markets like Kraken DNM. It says inflows are up almost 70%. So they are finding a way around it. Crypto is helping them.
Is it? Or is it just junk traffic?
Junk traffic.
The source is very specific here. Yes, the percentage increase looks huge, but compared to the volume of the core, the trillions moving through compliant KYC-verified exchanges in New York and London, it's a rounding error. It's noise.
So the architect's argument is that the core just lets this happen.
It allows this junk traffic to exist in the margins because it doesn't threaten the system at all. In fact, it's useful. It keeps the failed partitions isolated and contained. They're trading scraps in a dark alley while the adults are in the banquet hall dining on steak.
So they're basically building a bigger prison yard for themselves.
Exactly. The Don Roe doctrine doesn't need to invade Russia. It just needs to make sure Russia's connection to the world is high friction, high cost, and low bandwidth. It turns the entire country into a corrupted sector on the hard drive.
And the really scary part.
The scary part is that the architect argues this exact same logic, this same containment strategy, is being applied to crypto users right now.
Which brings us to the BTC enclosure. This is the part of the source material that made me put my drink down. Because we have this narrative, I see it every single day, that green mining is the future.
Bitcoin is the battery of the green grid.
Right. Companies are bragging about ESG compliance. We use 100% renewables. We're stabilizing the Texas grid, all of it.
And the institutionalist says.
The institutionalist says, this is how we win. We make Bitcoin clean, we make it corporate, we make it safe for pension funds. If BlackRock is in, the government can't possibly ban it. Legitimacy is victory.
And the architect just laughs and says, legitimacy is a cage.
Okay, you have to break that down. Why is green mining a trap?
It's the green mining protocol. This is a direct application of what the source calls the Iron Trinity.
The Iron Trinity.
Protection, offense, and resources. In this context, resources means one thing: energy asphyxiation.
Meaning?
Think about what a miner needs. What's the one thing above all else?
Cheap power. A lot of it.
Yeah. Industrial scale, reliable, cheap electricity. Now look at the regulations that are creeping in everywhere. FERC, the Department of Energy, the EU, with MICA and FIT21.
Contracts nobody read?
The contracts nobody read. They're setting guidelines. If you're a data center drawing more than, say, 10 megawatts, you need a report. You need to show your energy mix. You need to be audited.
Okay, but that's just bureaucracy. It's annoying, sure, but it's not a kill switch.
Isn't it? The architect argues this creates a two-tier network. Tier 1 is compliant hash rate.
And that is?
That's mining done in North America with renewable energy credits, audited by a Big Four accounting firm plugged directly into the core grid. This hash rate is certified clean.
And Tier 2?
Tier 2 is non-compliant hash rate. That's mining done with diesel generators in a jungle somewhere, or on a dirty coal grid in Kazakhstan.
And the market will just pay a premium for the clean coins? Is that the idea?
It's worse than that. The logistical OS will simply throttle the dirty coins. If you don't mine with audited energy, your hash rate is deemed high risk.
What does that mean in practice?
It means the compliant mining pools, which are becoming massive public companies, remember, they just start filtering transactions. Maybe they start prioritizing blocks mined with clean hash rate. They deprioritize yours.
So you're last in line?
You're last in line if you're in line at all. The architect's quote here is chilling. He says, the core didn't ban Bitcoin. It built a wall around it and controlled the electricity.
That completely flips the security model on its head. We always worried about a 51% attack on the code, someone trying to rewrite the ledger.
And we completely ignored the 100% attack on the physics. The architect says the real attack vector was always the physical layer. If 90% of the mining happens in jurisdictions that are synchronized with the core North America, aligned Europe, then the core doesn't need to change a single line of code.
They just control the power outlets.
They control the plug.
Okay, let's inject some of the hard data here from the briefing. 92% of BTC volume today passes through exchanges with mandatory KYC. 92%. That is a massive, massive funnel.
And the other one, 78% of the hash rate is now in jurisdictions requiring energy compliance.
So you combine those two facts?
And what do you get? The on-ramps, the exchanges are gated, the manufacturing, the mining is gated.
And the institutionalist, my side of the argument, celebrates this. This is maturation. This is market structure.
And the architect sees it as enclosure. You've built a golden dome over the network. Inside the dome, everything is safe, insured, tracked, and, of course, taxed.
And outside the...
Outside the dome, it's the dark forest.
But let me play devil's advocate again. If I'm just a regular person, maybe I want the golden dome. I want my ETF to be safe. I want to know my exchange isn't going to be the next FTX.
Of course.
If enclosure just means I can buy a house with my Bitcoin without the bank flagging me as a potential drug dealer, isn't that a good thing?
That is the golden cage argument. And it's a powerful one. Life in the cage is comfortable. You get fed, you're warm, you're safe. But the architect would ask you this. If the system controls the on-ramps and the power outlets, is the protocol really censorship resistant?
I mean, the code is.
Forget the code.
Yeah.
If the core decides that a certain transaction is toxic, say a donation to a protest movement they don't like or a whistleblower site, they don't need to hack the blockchain.
What do?
They just send a memo to the compliant miners, who are 78% of the network, and to the compliant exchanges, who are 92% of the volume. And the memo just says, blacklist this UTXO.
And just like that, your censorship-resistant money
is a digital token that requires permission to move. It becomes a permissioned asset running on a permissionless infrastructure. It's a paradox.
And that's the ultimate victory for the logistical OS.
It didn't destroy Bitcoin. It synchronized it.
Let's zoom back out to the geopolitical level, because this tension between the physical and the digital, it's playing out between the superpowers too. The Golden Dome versus the bunker of gold.
Right.
We see China, the primary rival, the bunker, and they are accumulating insane amounts of physical gold, buying it by the ton.
The old school hard asset play.
And the institutionalist looks at this and says, see? Hard assets always win. China is backing its currency with gold. The U.S. is backing its debt with vibes. Gold beats fiat.
That's the traditional hard money view. It makes intuitive sense. Heavy yellow metal in a vault equals wealth. But the architect introduces this fascinating distinction here.
Which is?
Network versus stock.
Yeah.
Or, as he calls it, logistical OS versus heavy metal.
Explain that. What's the difference?
The Chinese model is the bunker. It's based on stockpiling physical atoms. Gold bars in a vault. Grain in a silo. Concrete poured for the Belt and Road Initiative. It's defensive. It's heavy. And it's slow.
And the U.S. model?
The U.S. model, the core, is the Golden Dome. It's not based on stock. It's based on flow. It's orbital. It's Starlink. It's digital payment rails moving at the speed of light. It's the speed of information. The architect argues that in the 21st century, agility always beats mass.
And the evidence for this is the JWR platform collapse and the China gold trading scandal. I remember reading about this. Billions of dollars in gold-backed products that turned out to be, what, gold-plated copper?
This didn't exist at all. This is critical. Why did those platforms collapse? The architect says it's because China lacks what he calls authority epistemic.
Authority epistemic? Okay, hold on. You're dropping philosophy grad school terms in a 3 a.m. bar fight. Translate that for me. Why does that matter for a simple gold bar?
Fair enough. It just means the ability to certify truth.
Okay.
If I tell you I have a ton of gold in a vault in Shenzhen, how do you really know I'm telling the truth? You can't see it. You have to trust me. Or you have to trust the auditor sent by the Chinese Communist Party.
And in a system with capital controls and opaque reporting,
that trust is basically zero. The truth is whatever the party says it is that day. That's why JWR failed. The market eventually realized the paper gold might not match the physical gold, or that the government could just seize it all tomorrow if it felt like it.
And you contrast that with a digital asset.
With Bitcoin, or even a well-regulated USD stablecoin, moving on a verified public network. You don't need to trust a vault auditor in China. You just verify the ledger yourself.
So the U.S. model wins because it controls the verification layer.
Exactly. The U.S. controls the internet backbone, the financial messaging, and the truth of the market itself. A bar of gold in a bunker you can't audit is functionally worthless compared to a digital asset moving at light speed on a network everyone can verify, even if that network is heavily monitored by the U.S.
That connects directly to this data point. Trade volume between China and Saudi Arabia is $107.5 billion. That's a huge number. That's a lot of physical oil moving on ships.
A lot of atoms.
But the note here says, but the U.S. controls the shipping lanes and the financial rails.
There it is. China is moving the atoms, the oil, the plastic toys. But the U.S. controls the protocol those atoms have to move on. If the U.S. decides to shut down the Strait of Malacca or sanction the payment rails,
that $107 billion freezes instantly.
Instantly. The bunker is full of gold, but the door is locked from the outside. That is the raw power of the logistical OS. It doesn't need to own the cargo, it just owns the road.
And this idea of seeing everything, it brings us to these crime stats. 70% of crypto crime investigations are now successful because the ledger is open. The Golden Dome sees everything. So let's bring this down to the individual, to you, listening to this right now. You're sitting there, you've got some Bitcoin, maybe on a hardware wallet. You feel sovereign. The institutionalist tells you.
Be your own bank.
Financial inclusion, you're outside the system now.
And the architect just laughs and says, let me introduce you to SPF 3.
SPF 3, single point of failure number 3, the human bug.
The system knows encryption is just math, and math is very, very hard to break. But humans are soft. We have fear, we have greed, we have physical bodies that can be put in a cage. SPF 3 is the simple recognition that the weak link isn't the blockchain, it's the person holding the key.
Which brings up this really creepy concept of posse phantasma, ghost ownership.
It's a financial horror story. The argument is simple. You have the private keys. Great. You memorized your 12-word seed phrase. Fantastic.
Okay.
But if you can't actually spend the coins, because every merchant, every exchange, every service requires a clean wallet certificate, do you really own the money?
A clean wallet certificate. Is that a real thing? Are we seeing that yet?
We're seeing the beta test. Look at the travel rule for exchanges. Look at platforms refusing deposits from mixers like Tornado Cash. The SLA binario, the binary service level agreement, is coming.
And that says what?
It says, sync with our rules or you are on your own. And being on your own doesn't mean you're free. It means you're prey.
It's the difference between possession and utility. Yeah. I can possess a gold bar while I'm in a prison cell, but if I can't trade it for bread, am I rich?
Exactly. Pathe phantasma.
Yeah.
You hold the ghost of the asset. You have the numbers on the screen, but you can't convert them into real-world value food, shelter, gas for your car without passing through a gate. And that gate is controlled by the core.
And we see the dark side of being on your own with all these scams. The source material from Chainalysis goes deep on pig butchering, and these platforms like Huini Guarantee, they're stripping billions from regular people.
And the architect suggests a really dark twist here.
Which is?
The system allows these scams to exist in the junk partitions. It benefits from them.
How does it benefit from them?
It uses them to justify the crackdown. It uses protection as the pretext for the enclosure. The headlines scream, look at these poor people who lost their life savings to a pig butchering scam based in Myanmar.
And the solution is always?
We need stricter KYC. We need to whitelist addresses. We need to ban unhosted wallets for your own safety.
So the chaos of the dark forest is what validates the need for the Golden Dome?
It's a perfect protection racket. Nice savings you've got there in that crypto wallet. Be ashamed of something ever to it. Why don't you come inside the dome? Just register your identity, pay your taxes, and we'll keep you safe.
The SLA binario, the binary choice.
You click I agree, or you get eaten by the wolves.
And this binary choice, sink or die, basically. It seems to be the theme of the geopolitical map, too. The final section here maps the world this way. You've got the core.
U.S., Canada, integrated allies, high uptime, synchronized.
And then you have the failed partitions. Brazil, Russia, even parts of the EU that are refusing to upgrade their systems.
The source cites the Relatorio de Estabilidad Financiera from Brazil, the Financial Stability Report. And it implies extreme fragility. It implies a system that is just buffering.
Buffering, that's an interesting word. We usually call them emerging markets. That sounds so hopeful. Buffering just sounds stuck.
Emerging implies they're actually going somewhere. Buffering implies they're trying to load the video, but the connection is just too slow. The architect is brutal on this point, he says. There is no global south. There are only nodes that are syncing and nodes that are buffering.
And if you're in Brazil or Russia?
Your connection to the global OS is high latency. You have chronic inflation, you have shortages, you have noise and friction in your system.
And the energy asphyxiation tactic plays right into this. The strategy of keeping oil prices deliberately low, around $50 or $60 a barrel.
The energy pacifier. The architect argues the U.S. intentionally keeps energy prices in a band that is just too low for resource-based dictatorships to thrive. Russia needs oil at $100 a barrel to fund its war machine and its social bribes.
But at $50, it starves.
It starves. He says it's not a market price, it's a compliance price. It forces the rest of the world to pivot to efficiency, which means adopting core technologies instead of just relying on digging stuff out of the ground.
So if you're a failed partition, you're being starved of capital through sanctions and compliance rules.
And you're being starved of revenue through manipulated energy prices.
And your only way out
is to sync, adopt the protocols, install the logistical OS, accept the Don Road doctrine.
The institutionalists, the voice I've been trying to champion tonight, would be screaming at this point. They'd say, this is just cynical US-centric imperialism. Crypto is global. What about the global south using Bitcoin to escape the dollar? What about El Salvador? What about activists in Nigeria?
And the architect would shut them down.
Oh.
Cold, he'd say. You can't escape the dollar by using a network that runs on American internet, using American-designed hardware, and is cleared by American compliance algorithms.
So the dream of a parallel system is just a dream.
In the architect's view, it's a complete misunderstanding of the physical layer. If the core controls the satellites and the energy grid, the protocol will eventually follow their rules. There's no escape.
This feels like we've painted ourselves into a very tight corner. We have two completely different pictures of the world. On one hand, the institutionalist view, Bitcoin is the Trojan horse that has finally breached the city walls, and now we're all going to be free and rich. And on the other hand, the architect's view. The city saw the horse coming a mile away, built a giant wall around it, and is now charging admission for people to come and see the captured beast.
At the end of the day, it really just boils down to your definition of sovereignty.
Yeah. Let's simulate this final confrontation. Imagine our optimist, Analyst A, is sitting right here with us. He's flush with excitement from the ETF inflows. He's checking the price on his phone. It's green. And he looks at you and he says, "We won. I hold my own keys. I am sovereign. The government can't touch my money."
And Analyst B, the architect.
Yeah.
He doesn't look at his phone. He leans forward. The bar is quiet now.
Yeah.
And he just asks one question.
What's the question?
He says, if tomorrow the government decides that self-custody requires a $500 annual license,
Okay.
and 90% of miners are in jurisdictions that require compliance,
Right.
is your BTC still yours?
Well, I have the key, so yes.
Or do you just have the key to a safe that the system can lock whenever it wants? Because when you need to use that BTC in the real world, to buy a house, to pay a doctor, to gas up your car, you will have to pass through the gate.
And the gate.
And the gate belongs to the core.
Yes. And that's the silence in the room. That's the moment the music stops. Because the institutionalist, they don't have a clean answer for that.
They have hope, they have theory, they have the code is law.
But they don't have the realpolitik. The optimism is just. It's punctured by the hard reality of the physical world. You can have all the digital freedom you want, but you have a biological body that needs food and shelter.
And those things are controlled by the bulldozer.
We're not going to declare a winner here tonight. How could we? The data is messy. The core is incredibly powerful, but it's not omnipotent. Bitcoin is resilient, but it's not magic. But the landscape has definitely fundamentally changed. We are not in 2013 anymore. We're not even in 2024. We are in the era of the logistical OS.
And in this era, neutrality is not an option.
We're going to leave you with the final words from our architect source. Something to haunt you a little bit as you check your portfolio tomorrow morning.
Synchronize or become junk. In the crypto world, junk is whoever still thinks they can escape.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you on the other side of the firewall.